The odd thing is that some of these people like me. Some of these tough conservatives like me. I don't know why, because I don't like any of them. But they try to be nice to me, and they say, well, Jonathan means well. Jonathan seems to like these kids, or those kids, they typically say, those kids. At least he visits in their schools, you know. They said, but the trouble with his books is that he doesn't give enough statistics. He only writes about the things he knows. So I said, okay, this time I'm going to fool them. I'm going to get me some statistics. And I'll tell you what they were when this last book of mine went into editing. There were in the little neighborhood of the South Bronx I write about, there were 11,000 children, 11,000 boys and girls in the elementary schools. Of those 11,000, exactly 26 were white. 26. Now, I'm not too good at math. I went to a progressive school. They didn't force me to do anything I didn't want to do, you see. But I did learn long division. That's a segregation rate of 99.8%. 0.2 of 1 percentage point. Now mark the difference between legally enforced apartheid in the South of 50 years ago and socially and economically enforced apartheid in almost all our major cities now. The heartbreaker for me, since I'm old enough to have actually sat at the feet of Dr. King and heard him speak, some of you are nodding, and many of you probably did also, and certainly you young folks, your parents and grandparents did. Now, I remember his words so clearly, and, I remember the words of his dream, and, he didn't say, like, I have a dream that someday in the canyons of the great northern cities of America, we will have segregated and unequal schools with higher test scores, Or we will have segregated and unequal schools with black kids wear uniforms and chant consonant blends robotically all morning, He didn't say, I have a dream that someday we'll have small and intimate segregated and unequal schools. That's the trend this year. His dream was clear. He said, I have a dream that someday little black children, he would add little brown children today, and little white children will sit together at the table of brotherhood. It almost never happens anymore. And the heartbreaker for me is that when I come to a new city, black folks always say this in a kind of bitter joke. They say, you come to a new city and you want to see a really segregated school, just ask for a school that's named for Dr. King, or Thurgood Marshall, or Rosa Parks. And it always breaks my heart. A few of these are good schools, but most of them aren't. Usually these are the worst schools in every city. And they're the smelliest schools. I say things that other education writers never mention. They don't just have the worst test scores and the highest dropout rates and the least experienced teachers and the largest class size. They're also aesthetically repellent places. And I happen to think aesthetics counts. I think that beautiful surroundings, which I see out in the lovely suburban schools, I keep visiting suburban schools, so I'll remember. You understand? So I'll remember what it's like over there on that other side of the wall. And I see, I think that beautiful surroundings refine the souls of children. I think that squalid settings coarsen the mentalities of children. I think it's one of the sharpest ways in which our society draws lines of caste and race distinction. I think it's every bit as important as skill differences. And these schools, these smelly, so the kids always say to me, if you want to visit our school, don't just sit in the principal's office and learn about the test scores or something like that. Come with us, see what we see, breathe the air that we breathe. And they bring me down to the basement of these big high schools in Los Angeles. The kids insist I come down with them into this basements where they're herded for, you know, where their cafeterias are. The kids call it lunchroom hell. And they're right. That's what it's like. You don't want to. I don't want to eat when I'm down there. And if I want to use the restroom, you know, the kids will say, don't use the classy one that's for the principal's guests. Use the one we have to use. You know, I do what they do, and I see what they see. So these schools are smelly also, and they're ugly, and they're named for Dr. King. I always say, you know, why do we name these awful segregated schools for people that black folks love? Why not name these schools for people they don't like? You know, like William Bennett School of High Personal Morality, or Clarence Thomas Academy of Self-Help and Self-Hate. But save the name of Dr. King for a school that lives up to his dream. It's my own belief, you know.